Come with me on an idle ride as we watch The Last of Us together.
Can't be any worse out there. Can it? I can take care of myself.
How many close calls have we had?
Ellie! Stop! Stop!
Fucking touch me!
It's okay. It's me. It's me. It's me. Look. Sweet Jesus.
Doctor?
What are you doing in here? This is our future. Think of all the lives we'll save.
I struggled for a long time with surviving. And no matter what, you keep finding something to fight for.
Welcome to Idle Ride, a podcast dedicated to casual enthusiasm for all things pop culture. I'm Marcy, your host, here with my chosen brother, Paul.
Hey, I'm Paul.
And also our good friend, John, is back.
Hey, it's good to be back. I only watched the episodes that I'm talking about, so did anything important happen in between?
John, come
Just
on.
filler.
And we're here to discuss the 9th episode of The Last of Us TV series, titled Look for the Light. So we finally made it to the finale. I'm just going to do a quick plug at the beginning here to say that I hopefully will start doing a Last of Us Twitch where I live stream replaying The Last of Us, but in between there, Paul and I might do filler episodes that discuss and talk about some games that give us the feel of The Last of Us. So there'll be some more content coming up. And John, do you want to plug anything for yourself while we're here talking about it?
Yeah. Just if you are a fan of Star Trek, go ahead and listen to Open Pike Night. It's our show where our friend Cam, Jesse, and I are talking about Strange New Worlds, the newest Star Trek series. And also, I'm a producer on Green Shirt, on Newbies Trek Through TNG that Marcy used to be on, where Cameron is watching Next Generation for the first time. And we just started watching Deep Space Nine, too. So there will be lots
change.
of layers of content there. Yeah. And check those out. If you're a Star Trek fan, give them a listen. We're having a lot of fun with this show. And season 2 of Strange New World starts in June.
Good.
Yeah,
so the synopsis of this episode, I guess, is that we go from Ellie's origin story to Joel's lie, which is like a big swath of new information and a bunch of different things that happen that, you know, you've gone from watching Ellie trust Joel, and they're super honest with each other, to he did the worst thing he could possibly do, which is not murder a bunch of people, it's lie to her. So we start out in the episode right away with a pregnant woman running through the woods, and we don't know who she is, but we know who she is.
Yeah. From the very first grunt she makes. Like, that's Ellie from the game.
That's Ellie from the game, yes. So that's Ashley Johnson, who was the voice actress for Ellie in the video game. And as a character, I realized looking at Ashley's face that, the actress Bella Ramsey, who plays Ellie in the show, they do have a very striking resemblance.
Very strong resemblance. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was rewatching it for this discussion. Like, man, they absolutely could be related.
Good old British inbreeding, right?
But the character's name is Anna. And Paul, we've been tracking the backpack. And I am like, first of all, what the fuck is Anna doing out in the woods by herself with only a switchblade and no fucking backpack? I am just enraged by this.
So the first thing I try to do is come up with an in-story reason for why this could all be true. And they don't give us any fuel to work with on this. She's running towards this farm that, like, obviously she knows because she yells out for people who should be there. So they're all not doing their job either. The only excuse is, like, this was added on story depth that people wanted to know about. And they didn't really think that we'd be like, hey, why is she doing this stupid horror movie trope?
Yes, she's like literally lived through a zombie apocalypse pregnant and doesn't know to not be yelling and screaming and crashing through the woods. Clickers, I mean, we've established that they key on noise and sound. Anyway.
Hey, man. When they're pregnant, what women want is just a farmhouse. So I had to get the What Women Want reference in there, Ashley Johnson. I'm sorry, but...
Oh, if we're going to go that way. She was out looking for ice cream.
Wasn't she the daughter in What Women Want?
Yeah,
wow.
I think that's the first time I ever saw her in anything. So
Wow.
She's in the
Deep cut.
Avengers also. She's all over the place.
Yeah, she's a good actor. I really like her. But anyway, this beginning, I think I'm probably just complaining because it's the second time I watched it, and I could be like, oh, I'm going to pick this apart. Because when I was watching it in the actual finale, I certainly wasn't thinking about, oh my gosh, she doesn't have a backpack. I'm just like, run!
Just a fan theory. Maybe we don't get to see the person that knocked her up because he was with her and they put their backpacks down and then they got overwhelmed and he's like, run! I'll take the backpacks to you later.
I like
Okay.
this theory. That's a good theory.
Good. They're fucking in the woods.
As you do.
And they heard a clicker coming, and she sacrificed him like Ellie would do. I mean, that's what these women do. They save themselves. They're survivors. And she's like, fuck this guy. He's just my sperm donor.
Already got what I want from
there.
Yeah, they weren't trying to get pregnant, but a zombie popped up and he was like, ah! And, you know.
She makes it to the farmhouse. Like Paul said, she's calling out for people, so you know that she's been to this farmhouse before. Again, even when I was watching this show, there's not a safe room. There's not a place that they've created for this pregnant woman.
It really didn't look like a base. It really, I'm like,
Mhm.
wait, if there's supposed to be people meeting her here, where are they and what fortifications have happened? Because there's nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So she realizes nobody's there. She runs upstairs and just jams a single chair underneath the door and is like, okay, my water broke. It's happening.
Yep.
And the one thing I like about The Last of Us is that
The one thing. Sorry.
Sorry, you're right. I like many things about The Last of Us, but this is kind of a fun one that they show how scary just one single zombie can be.
Yeah.
I know that Paul and I have tried to watch The Walking Dead, and it's all about herds of zombies. And I really enjoy that just one single zombie in The Last of Us is fucking tough. And so, they avoid these herds of zombies because, we saw what happened in episode 5.
Yep.
It's impossible. You're going to lose that battle. You just run away. But also, that one zombie is just a terror. So that's been kind of fun to not see like herds of zombies. I think there has been a little bit of a complaint, I think, from probably the male gaming crowd who's like, why is there so many emotions in this TV show? Why aren't there more zombies? I want more killing of zombies and action. And I think they do a great job of choosing the moments for when the zombies can give a push to the characters, but it's not just like random violence for violence sake.
Right. They use their violence wisely in this as compared to, which I hate, The Walking Dead. It's like, hey, you can only take so much of people being terrible and horrifically violent nonstop before it really does start to lose impact. And they don't lose that impact here with The Last of Us.
Yeah.
They don't.
There's this term that they use for like shows that go on for too long and they have to live with the consequences of growth in previous episodes or shows. So like the classic example is how in Dragon Ball Z, like their power level being 9,000 was super big.
The
but, like,
classic example is
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z?
so yeah, and then a few seasons later, I don't know because I never watched the show except when I was in college eating cereal, they would have power levels of millions and like tens of millions later. So like 9,000 was a joke to later seasons. And yeah, you just get
Interesting.
more and more zombies because they're like, I don't know, they handled the bloater. What are we going to do? Crocodile zombies?
Yeah. So anyway, she's starting to give birth. She's having contractions. Her water's broke. She's in this room. There's just a chair protecting her from the zombie. And then she pulls out the classic switchblade, the Ellie switchblade. Again, we've been tracking the switchblade. It's a classic weapon from the game. And this is why she has it. I guess it's her one keepsake from her mother. So we kind of already get this feel that her mom's tough, and that's why Ellie is tough. The fact that your only memento is a killing weapon is kind of crazy.
This is
Yeah.
way cooler of a gift of love from your mom than a scar on your forehead.
Okay, it took me a second. Harry Potter, everybody. Yeah, well, and it wasn't from his mom. It's just a signal that he's like a Horcrux or whatever. And so that's dumb, that he's got evil in him. So...
I will say, whoever made that switchblade made a hell of a knife, because, I mean, you've got moving parts inside a knife that lasts for, I mean, we got to assume close to 15, 20 years at this point, longer because of manufacturing. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's a really nice blade.
Whatever that spring action is top notch.
And the zombie breaks through the door and comes at her, and she's got the switchblade. She stab, stab, stab. She kills the zombie. It's a really dramatic scene.
Yep.
And I had forgotten this from the first time we watched it, that she doesn't even realize that she gave birth.
I love that too. It's a fantastic way to move it along.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to like be like, okay, now she's like getting contractions. She just like squirted that baby out in her panic.
We got a new method.
Panic birthing. And so now the baby's there. She realizes that she's been bit, and she quickly slices the umbilical cord. I have a clip that is our original reactions to the pregnant zombie fight. So let's take a listen to that.
I feel like you could have secured that door better, and you could have gotten out in a different location that wasn't just facing the door.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she was in the middle of having a baby. It's hard to...
Andrew...
Marcy played a D&D game where her character was fighting while pregnant.
Oh, yeah! And I think I gave birth, too, like, right afterwards.
Yeah, Marcy knows how it is.
Okay, so Marcy has real-world experience.
I forgot to preface it with, throughout all of our reactions, I'm chomping away on popcorn. Nom, nom, nom. So if you don't like that sound, sorry.
It's just too good.
I didn't realize to all of my guy friends, I will often say your name in like disappointment or like John or Paul. Like I do that again, like later. I'm like, wow, I'm like the disapproving mom sometimes a lot, I feel like.
I was going to say, all of us know the sound of Marcy being disappointed in us.
And it starts with a single click.
Yep.
All right, so yeah, I mean, I think that's hilarious. I had totally forgotten, Paul, about that one character I played in D&D where I ended up marrying a dude in it and getting pregnant and fighting as a pregnant woman. In my experience, I think it's fun to play those roles, like being a mother. You don't do that often in those role-playing games, which I think adds more life to the story when you have these connections with other people that aren't just like superficial.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, okay, so there's consensus in this group that it was the fact that she was connected through the umbilical cord is why she has the immunity. I mean, I know Marlene talks about it later, but Marlene doesn't know that because Anna lies to her.
That's true.
Which it's like, you could be mad at Joel for making the decision he did, but it's like, hey, and Anna didn't know, but it's like, you kind of doomed humanity a little bit with that lie there, Anna, because it's something they could have tried.
Well, but Anna also knew that Marlene is kind of she would have killed the baby, basically. That's why she lied. I mean...
Yeah, exactly. It's a
double-edged sword because she wanted to save her baby, and that's why she lied. I don't think Marlene knew. The doctor told her this is why he thinks that there was an immunity. When we were watching it the first time, we were like, oh, this is like a great thought that she got bit, and then I was in my mind like, I know that the amniotic sac provides like passive immunity to babies through the amniotic sac, but it's the mother that has the immunity already. And so then I started doing some research after this. I was like, well, how could this possibly happen? They really zoomed in on, made sure you knew that she was cutting the umbilical cord. And I'm like, what's special about an umbilical cord? And it is kind of special because in the umbilical cord, there's umbilical cord blood that is different than our regular blood. It's actually stem cells. It can be made into any kind of thing. It can be made into cells. It can be made in bone, blood, whatever. Later, when they talk about the actual theory, it makes sense because maybe that umbilical cord was able to transform the virus into a type of cell that simulates cordyceps, but isn't cordyceps.
Yeah, isn't active. There's research showing that leaving the umbilical cord connected for like an hour after birth actually shows huge immunity benefits. And health benefits for babies. I like that they hint at it because it's like, yeah, well, if there's one thing that could do it, one human process that can do it, it's pretty likely to be somewhere in there.
In birth, which great job, women, for basically having all of the superhero parts of a human in your body.
Okay, I'd like to add a little bit of science to this because it's exciting and fun. So last I heard,
Paul's Pathology.
No, this is all of ours because you guys started it. The last I heard, the predominant evidence was that the whole placental mammal thing was because of a virus. And so the umbilical cord is a part of this adaptation from, basically back when we split from the Australian branch of our ancestors. A virus gave us the ability to have internal raising of babies. And that means that we have a whole viral mechanism for snipping off the mushroom bits and putting on the human bits. Like that sort of stuff happens. That's called gene transfer. So.
Whoa, sweet. That's awesome. So you made what I said even smarter sounding.
Teamwork.
This is what Paul does. I'm telling you, if you have Paul as a friend, you will sound so smart because he backs you up.
Absolutely.
And John, but...
Oh, Paul and I have very different types of talents for doing the backup. Like,
yeah.
There's lots of ways to be backup.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I love that they actually took something that has a scientific basis for potentially making her immune to this horrible virus.
I also like how hardcore Anna is to protect Ellie, just holding the knife to her throat, just waiting, just is like, all right, either Marlene's going to show up or I'm just going to have to off myself before this gets too bad. Like,
that's so badass.
I think I missed it the first time I was watching. I realized, oh, holy crap. Damn, Anna, you just holding that right against her jugular, like ready to go.
Yes, so cool. And Paul and I were mad at Marlene because I think early on, episode 7, where it's Riley and Ellie's episode, Paul and I were like, Marlene said that she was going to protect Ellie and then she gave her away. But Anna literally says, find someone to bring her up.
Yeah.
And
she knew Marlene wasn't good enough to do parental stuff.
But I don't think she meant to give her to a fucking organization like Fedra.
Yeah, Marlene made a lot of bad choices. She made the bed she ended up in. I will say, plus you can't trust her in this flashback because she's young because of one of my favorite TV tropes. She has curly hair. So obviously that means she's younger.
So we just need to curl our hair and we're all younger.
It's just like, all right, there's one change there. Hair is different. That means they're 10, 15 years younger. Why not? Sure.
Amazing.
They do give her wrinkles and stuff later and gray hair and stuff.
I would like to walk back a little bit of hate on Marlene because I was thinking about the difficulty of suddenly your pregnant friend leaves you with the baby and dies, and now you have to go from there to Boston. Even if it's 100 miles, it's a long way to go with a baby. And she doesn't have any formula, so she's got to go find formula or whatever's left. But they were probably expecting to do natural milk until she got bit and wasn't able to provide it.
Man, they had 9 months to prepare. I'm just saying.
In 2010, 7 years after the apocalypse or whatever.
No, you're right, Paul, but the first thing she does is hand the baby over to someone else and be like, make sure you do these things.
Yeah.
I get that your best friend just died, so I think she's trying to create an emotional distance between her and this baby because she knows she has a mission and a baby is not gonna be copacetic to her mission. Also, a problem with the scene is that they say that they've been best friends for a long time, but we haven't seen that relationship grow and build. I think it's nice that there is this parallel after watching it again. I was like, oh, this kind of reminds you a little bit of Ellie and Riley, that relationship that they have together, and I think they did that parallel on purpose. But still, I just feel like things could have been way different if she had cared and loved Ellie.
One of the things, because I don't think we've talked about it, is that the voice actor for Marlene in The Last of Us is this actress, Merle Dandridge.
Okay.
And she was also Alex in the Half-Life 2 series. So
Oh.
Really?
yeah, like, just shout out. She's cool. She's been here with Last of Us from the beginning, being a very complicated and easily hated person.
I guess I don't think I hate her per se. I get that she's in this role that they often put women characters in where, like, oh, she's the person stuck in a position of having to do something bad when they don't want to do it bad, and then she is making the right choice. Like, Joel's the one who makes the wrong choice.
Objectively, saving humanity is a better choice, as great as Ellie is as a person.
And sometimes I feel like the strong female characters are often put into this villain type role. So I like that they're trying to give you a little bit more of a backstory to make you not hate her so much. But unfortunately, she is in that role, and we love Joel and we love Ellie. And
so the sides have been drawn.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, sorry.
I mean, Last of Us was very dangerously close to just casting women as villains in every leadership role. If it weren't for
the cannibal preacher.
Why am I spacing on her name in Jackson? Tommy's.
Maria.
Maria. If it weren't for Maria, Last of Us could have had a real problem with women if they weren't careful with it on this series. So
I guess.
Yeah.
I like though that every leadership role is basically a woman, even if they're bad guys. I mean, Joel's not a leader.
No.
Joel's
I'm talking community leaders. I'm talking.
Yeah, I get it.
Also, out of 4 community leaders, there's one good one.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's tough.
Yeah.
They've all had to, like, Paul and I have talked about this before, like, think of all the terrible things that they've done.
Yes.
And so the idea that there's 1 out of 4 that's good is probably accurate, because most of these people have done terrible things to survive. And
exactly. Yeah.
Even in that utopia, all the adults are going to have to get past those things, right?
Yeah.
Heal those scars. Yeah, so I think you wanted to go into Marlene kind of wiffle waffling on killing her best friend.
I mean, it's part of the scene. She says, I can't kill you. And then she leaves with the baby and is like, here, this is your job now. You're going to take care of this baby for the rest of your life until we get to Boston. And the guy's like, oh, fuck. And then she goes back in and executes her friend. And that's a pretty tough life that Ellie starts with. She gets born in the process of her mother being attacked by a zombie. Her mother gives her a switchblade as a keepsake. And then she hears, as a baby, her mother being shot by her best friend.
The first thing she hears besides her mother's voice is, somebody executing her mother. Yeah.
I was definitely thinking at that scene that they could have stylized this and added it as like a subplot to that heavy metal cartoon, and the baby would be crying and like the mom's blood would be dripping down her face.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's not that far from the truth.
Also, that guy totally failed in the one assignment he was given.
Cover her ears.
Cover her ears. Just doesn't even bother.
And I did glaze over the fact that there is a fairly long moment where you see Anna spending a little bit of time loving up on her baby. So you actually get to see that Ellie was loved by her mother, and if her mother had lived, she would have had love in her life.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a sweet moment.
Yeah. And we can't have those, so we move the plot forward. Now we're at the entrance, I guess, of Salt Lake City, and Joel's scrounging around in some cars for goodies, and Ellie's just staring off into space.
I will say, for that, this region of the country, because I live right near Salt Lake City, Boggle and Chef Boyardee are absolutely believable to be in cars, just at any given time. I'll buy it. I may have some other issues coming up with Salt Lake City, but I'll buy Boggle and Chef Boyardee, absolutely.
All right.
Well, just so the audience knows, John has lived in Salt Lake City a very long time. He's the expert.
Yeah, so he throws a can of Chef Boyardee, or shows it to her. So look what I found, some Chef Boyardee. I guess he was probably expecting the regular upbeat Ellie, and she's just like, He shows her Boggle because he knows that she'll beat him at it because it's, I guess, too smart for him.
I love this moment because this is Joel being super cute and playful. He's obviously
like a
trying
puppy.
He is. Yep. He's like trying to break her out of her funk. He's like, look, I got our favorite meal, Chef Boyardee. And then she's like, fuck, no, I don't care about that. And then he's like, I got Boggle. We can play Boggle together. Please play with me. And she's like, all right, I'm okay, whatever. You know, she's being a kind of a typical teen here, but we know she's not a typical teen, so she's probably thinking about something super heavy.
So do we want to hit that? What do you think she's thinking?
I mean, it's got to be the encounter at the end of the last episode, you know, just having to deal with being attacked and killing her attacker. I don't think it goes any deeper than that as far as the showrunner's intent, but...
Definitely not.
Yeah.
I was probably in my own head at this episode and thinking maybe she's thinking about the end of the road and like, what if she dies from this? Because medical procedures always have that risk.
Yeah.
But she might not even be aware of that. So
I think Paul's kind of on the right track, that it's more about what does her future hold? What's next? Are we going to make it? They still have to get through the city, you know.
What if it's also a failure?
Yeah. And I also think she's hopeful maybe that there'll be a good outcome in the end, but also knows that in her life, that's never happened. So I think she's worried. I think she's worried and anxious about what is to come once they meet Fireflies, because she also knows that we've got Joel here. Joel's kind of a wild card even for her. Like, she can probably feel from him this new, like, almost manic, it's manic for Joel kind of, where he's like happy. You know, she doesn't want to let him down, but she wants to continue on this mission, right?
Yeah, because the next throwaway bit was him saying that he saw a guitar and that maybe he could teach her, but that one was broken, so they'll have to keep looking.
Now, they did come from Colorado, so they had to have come along I-70. I'm going to start getting into the Salt Lake thing.
Oh, dear.
Colorado and Utah are right next to each other. They are not right next to each other. To get to where they got to, they passed Arches, they passed Canyonlands, they came all the way along I-70 through the Rocky Mountains. Now, not like over a high pass, but... It's been a while since they left that last camp. It's been like she might just be exhausted because to come at the Salt Lake from the direction they're coming, it's been a very long trip.
That's a good point. I like that. We didn't need to see that arduous journey, but I think that's just a big part of Joel and Ellie's life, is that they had all of these struggles. And I'm sure there's been a lot of time where they just sit around and you think about shit, right? Because that's all you have to do.
Yeah. It's like old times, man. Like the 1800s. Like, well, I guess I'll make this incredibly intricate thing that people will admire because I'm bored. I'm bored.
Exactly.
And in 200 years, this will be in a museum because I was bored.
Bored, and I thought it might increase my chances for sex.
Exactly.
I realized that all of the kind of happy scenes, or the main theme, is on the guitar. And I was like, oh, duh. Because Joel's thing, the thing that he wanted to do always that made him happy, is the guitar. Duh! Okay.
I also like that he is in not only full dad mode here, but full experienced dad mode, because he's raised a daughter to teenage years before. So what he's seeing, he's seen before, and is pulling out those old skills, blowing the rust off, and being like, all right, I'll, make this joke about blowing our way through the city with dynamite. At least it means she'll be, I can gauge how well she's actually listening to me.
I mean, they missed an opportunity for him to hand her like a tampon box and be like, hey,
if this is your problem.
Well, I do have that clip of them entering the city and Joel telling her the joke.
Okay, so this is what I'm thinking.
Cut through that building to get around that stuff, find a skyscraper, go up and look around.
Actually, this time I was thinking we blast our way through that rubble. I found some dynamite in that RV back there.
Really?
No, so we're gonna cut through that building, find a skyscraper, go up and look around. I had you going, didn't I?
Hey, if it worked in Kansas City, wait, it didn't really work.
It's so cute.
It is very cute.
Every moment in the city, until that one moment that we hate, is so amazing. I feel like I cry like 8 times while we're walking through the city. like watching these scenes.
Now, I'm not going to be a purist on like, oh, Salt Lake City doesn't look like that. Of course it doesn't. It's a TV show, whatever. Like, they actually do a pretty good job of showing downtown Salt Lake City from a distance. Of course, the church office building is still standing. It's the tallest building you see. The mountains look pretty good. Where they are when they enter the building that ultimately leads to the happy scene with the giraffes, I don't know where that's like right in the middle of I-15 between the airport and Salt Lake City. There's not a stadium there. There are not skyscrapers there, but it's like, okay, well, you got to do what you got to do. Yep.
I guess my question is there a zoo? And are there giraffes?
So, okay, when you're looking at the stadium, if you're like, look straight back toward the mountains, yeah, the zoo is up in the foothill of those mountains, the Hogle Zoo. There are giraffes. There probably would have been somewhere between 3 and 5 giraffes at that point. They don't usually have, it's like 3 is usually what they have, I think. When I was a kid, I remember they had 5, I think. With 5, somebody's absolutely cultivating these giraffes. That is a lot of alive giraffes on a planet that... I mean, the planet has to be cooling down at this point, given how much of the human race has gone and how much the forests have taken back over. So those giraffes are definitely being cared for because they have indoor enclosures now.
All right.
And yeah.
If Last of Us staff is listening, we need the giraffe keeper story.
Yes, somebody's keeping giraffes, and for some reason they're keeping them way away from the zoo. Like, you had to get them all the way through Salt Lake City, all the way through.
What you didn't notice, John, there was actually a man riding one of the giraffes. He had a giraffe saddle, and he's like, hey, over here. That was my NPC. Actually, I have my wardrobe. My donkeys are also behind there.
Excellent.
No, just kidding.
Also the monkeys from the previous place.
Yeah. And I think the next closest zoo is Denver. They have giraffes, but again, they would have had to cross the Rocky Mountains to get there.
They smelled them. They were like, I know there's more giraffes over there.
We can start a colony like those hippos did in South America.
Also, the hospital has 6 stories, which means it probably only be the University of Utah hospital. So the Fireflies are way away from their base patrolling to find Joel and Ellie. Like miles and miles and miles. There are a lot of Fireflies in Salt Lake City if they can patrol that far.
Wow, guys.
LDS hospital has 4 stories. Salt Lake City Regional Medical Center only has like 3. Yeah, it has to be the University Hospital.
That's just simple math.
Right?
We're getting a little ahead of ourselves with the giraffe, but that's okay. They do a lot of classic scenes, and that's one of the classic scenes. So building up to the giraffes, we do a classic Joel and Ellie boost up onto like a platform, and she hands down a ladder. And
then kind of drops it.
Yeah, exactly. And then you hear her calling to you. That was something that she used to do in the game a lot, where Joel would be like, where the fuck is Ellie? And she's like, come here! And you're like running after Ellie. So this is just like pure game mechanics. That cutscene is just it's a classic moment. I'm gonna play the clip of Ellie feeding the giraffe.
Don't scare it.
I won't.
What are you doing?
It's all right. Can you hurry up? Come on.
Hey there. So fucking cool. Oh, where's she going? Come on, come on, come on, come on.
Okay.
Aww. Look at Andrew. This is a serious recording in the most cute part, and you fucking fart.
Now it's forever
It's
recorded.
over. It's over now. You've ruined it.
I forgot that part.
But yeah, it was good to see. All right, we need a magic wand to cure Ellie of her sadness. Here, have a bunch of giraffes. It's effective.
So I was going to bring up a question of, after all these years from being away from zoos, this giraffe probably has no memory of humans feeding it. And so how can Joel do this magical feeding the giraffe? But John's keeper theory completely blows that out of the water, of course.
Oh, yeah. Good point. And also, it's sort of like in Jurassic Park.
It's, yeah, absolutely. The
This
Jurassic
is
Park
basically
scene, yeah.
scene for scene or the Jurassic Park scene.
I'm
with
glad you
the
said it, because
Brontosaurus. But again, my theory that movies that I love have gruff men who change because of little kids, and it's freaking adorable. But anyway, so Ellie runs up to the top of the building, and they're looking out over the herd of giraffes, and it's sunny and beautiful. And I have another clip here because this is the scene where Joel sort of gives Ellie an out. Actually, it's more like him trying to get her to give him an out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that he can have a little girl again. So let's listen to that clip.
We don't have to do this. I want you to know that.
What do you mean? What else are we supposed to do?
Nothing. We just go back to Tommy's. We forget about the whole damn thing.
After all we've been through. Everything I've done. It can't be for nothing. I know you mean well. I know you want to protect me. You have. And when we're done, we'll go wherever you want. Tommy's, Sheep Ranch, the moon. I'll follow you anywhere you go.
Follow you anywhere you go. It's almost making me cry right now. Again, I've watched this episode many times already now, but it's so heartbreaking. And certainly when Paul and I watched it the first time, I think we were tearful during that watching because we played the video game, so we knew what was coming. And so like all of these moments are so bittersweet, but they can still be sweet moments. The fact that she trusts him so much after all they've been through, you know, we have this moment where if she had decided to go, like none of the other shitty things that happen would happen, right?
I will say, HBO better understand the debt that they owe to Bella Ramsey. Between this and Game of Thrones, it's like, hey guys, she is bringing the performance heat. We're going to be seeing her perform for a very long time with the range that she's shown in just these two shows.
Plus, as a little bit of a bully with a British accent in His Dark Materials.
Oh, yeah? I've not seen that yet, so...
Is she in His Dark Materials?
Yeah, she's not a big role, but she's one of the kids from the third world that was the one that opened up the two worlds.
Oh, interesting.
Her brother's the one who has the subtle knife, and they take it from the brother, and the brother dies, and so she has a grudge against him.
Yeah, I was watching that show as it was coming out, so I didn't remember that. Cool. I feel like there's not a lot to say about this other than that, you know, you're seeing in these moments all the reasons why Joel makes the decision that he makes later, why he has the resolve that he has. And it's very obvious to the audience that they are now a unit. He considers her a daughter, and it's freaking adorable.
Yeah. And this episode it's a strange episode to me. I remember messaging you when I was finished watching it the first time. It's like, I'm not sure how I feel about this episode. And watching it a second time, it's like, okay, they knew they needed to do three things in this episode. They needed to show the Anna flashback. They needed to show the giraffes and the healing journey there, and they needed to show the hospital and the consequences of that. And they kind of just did that. They didn't put a whole lot in between those three things. I wouldn't say it's like a super strong finale to a season, but as we need to tell this story and finish it here so that we can pick up next time, it does the job. But it's also, each one of those things is a very beautiful scene. So I'm not complaining about the content of it, but I think it is a little bit of a clunky season finale.
I think you're right.
I do not agree.
Let me just say that, like, you're right that it's telling these three stories that there's hard cuts between them and they don't interact.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Well, but all of those things needed to happen for you to understand the reasons why all these characters have the motivations that they have. At least the adult characters, right? Because Ellie is sort of a passive participant in almost every scene she's in. She's basically in her thoughtful stage of, I am the mode in which the cure is going to be created. And she has made her decision. So she doesn't have any more decisions to make. Joel is the one, and Marlene is the one that is driving the story through in this episode.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of brilliant that they decided not to fill with a lot of filler in between these scenes, because what else is it going to tell you? Not anything, really. I
don't think
I'm
John's
glad that
asking for filler, though.
Yeah, I'm not asking for it. I'm just saying they didn't have to cram it all of it into the last episode. It works, but the way they just constructed the season, like they could have laid some stuff down with Marlene earlier in Marlene's scenes. There could have been something.
Oh, I agree with that, because I remember being like, why is Ellie so concerned about Marlene?
Yeah.
They've literally only met when they kidnapped her for being immune.
Yep.
That's what I thought. And then she's like, oh, what happened to Marlene? Like, why do you fucking care about Marlene? Marlene's the one that was taking Riley away from you. She hadn't known about Marlene until Riley told her about it. And so this is that one thing that I was talking about, Paul, in a previous episode, where I was like, this is one point where the writers, I think there's a little bit of a mistake there in not creating some kind of relationship between Marlene and Ellie, because we don't see it.
We have no idea.
I think there was a part in like the live streaming where you said, I don't care about Marlene, like I want this story. I think it was the first episode, and it's like, yeah, I guess it's totally the way they set it up. There's no reason you should specifically care about her if you don't know what's going to happen at the end. So like I totally got that.
And for example, I love the Bill and Frank episode, but it was kind of extraneous.
Yeah.
It was a long episode and there wasn't a lot that built the story forward, so they could have shortened that and added a little few things in there. But maybe I agree with you to a degree that they could have added more later or earlier to help us understand this story without it all having to be crammed into the end episode. But I don't think it really matters to me in the end.
Yeah, just to add a final thought, I've always believed that endings are the hardest part of a story, and that the two choices that you can really make if you're finishing a story is to either follow the logical consequences of everything you've set up or be like Lost and don't. And so she got him again.
There's a moment where they're walking, they've come down out of that building, they're walking through this area where there's some army medical camps, and Joel talks about how he was in one at the very beginning of post-apocalypse, and it's because of his head wound, and she kind of makes a couple like jokes about it, and he's like, actually it was because it wasn't somebody, it was me. And so he confesses to her in this moment that he tried to kill himself and flinched away and didn't actually end up dying. Obviously he's still alive, and she thinks she understands the moment. She's like, oh yeah, I guess, well, time heals all wounds. And this scene just like, oh god, it's so good. Like Pedro Pascal, like, you are knocking it out of the park. Like he looks at her and he says, it wasn't time that did it, and he's like crying in the scene, and it makes me cry just thinking about it.
Yeah.
At that moment, I really wish Test could have seen him and his change.
Yeah, can you
absolutely.
imagine?
Also, I'm going to say justice for Tommy here. He might have said something really harsh in an earlier episode, but it's like, yeah, well, Tommy was with him and he made that decision. And so I'm sure Tommy is carrying a lot of baggage of, you tried to abandon me too.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You tried to, yes, you lost Sarah, but also I was there and you made that decision. So Tommy is a fun side character and easy to go with Too Late Tommy. But at the same time, it's like, he may be a joiner, but he probably feels like his brother was a quitter. So,
yeah, that's a good point.
Well, but he's an adult, so
exactly.
he makes his own decisions, and I get that you still have to live even when bad things happen, but watching your daughter get shot and killed is probably the most traumatic way that you can watch somebody die, right?
Yeah.
So certainly we can all understand why Joel did what he did, and Tommy is an adult man who's been through the fucking army, so he should understand loss, and he decides to do all the things that he decides to do. He could have attempted to reason with Joel to try to knock him out of his pain and grief. But I'm pretty sure he probably just was like, well, Joel's the leader. Joel's the one that's like my big brother. So I'm just going to do whatever he said. You know, sometimes if you're the little brother, you just have to fucking step up. In that moment when they were in the Utopia, he did say something really harsh. And Paul and I have talked about how maybe that's the only way to get through to people like Ellie and Joel, is you have to really basically hit them over the head with reality of what's happening. I'm guessing those two boys never talked about Sarah after she died, because they're big, strong men and we don't talk about that stuff, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm guessing Tommy didn't talk about him trying to kill himself, you know?
Oh, yeah. As soon as he was out of the hospital, you know, he didn't finish his sentence. He said it wasn't time. It was proper medical attention and care. But, you know, that heals all wounds. But that's how they probably treated it. Like, yep, okay, on to the next thing. We're not
exactly.
And so I do like how much more meaning it gives to that scene between Tommy and Joel earlier in the series. Yeah.
That's a great point. I'd like to also bring up just how heartbreaking the revelation in this little back and forth was, where Joel's like, yeah, I actually went to a camp like this on day 2. And then Ellie was like, was Sarah there? And he's like, nope, she's already gone.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the fact that they can say Sarah's name is like all new stuff.
That rule is gone now. It is forever gone.
I was destroyed in that scene too. I was crying in that scene. Lots of serious talk there for a moment, but they transitioned from this really sad moment into let's lighten it up a little bit. Let's do some puns.
Joel specifically asking for them.
Yeah, it was so cute. I love all their little callbacks and the happy moments here in this episode to previous episodes. So many of them where Joel shows that he's been listening even way back when he was acting all tough to every word that Ellie was saying.
And also another really good dad gauge of like, okay, giraffes helped. I was open and vulnerable with her. How's she feeling? Is she willing to tell puns? Like he's a good dad. Yeah.
He did get her out of her funk. Like by that moment, she was no longer introspective. She was being silly again.
Yep. Yeah.
And he did his job as a dad. He brought her out of her funk.
Good
being
parenting.
Silly and stupid. And then you look behind them in that scene and you're like, fucking shithole. Like, God damn it.
I want more puns.
Because you see the little guys come up behind him and they're so happy. And then there's a flashbang. And you're like, well, flashbang into the rest of the miserable fucking episode.
Yeah, I hate when I'm in Salt Lake City having fun and somebody throws a flashbang at me, you know?
Every time.
Every time.
Fucking Fireflies. We don't want your bright lights, okay?
And I gotta tell you, Marlene has to be a hell of a leader because she has every one of these Fireflies just grudging against Joel. Zero sympathy. I don't know what she's been telling them, but damn, is it effective.
Well, can you imagine like how long it took her to get there, where she's like telling stories of, okay, when Joel gets there, by the way, these are all the terrible things he's done to people. He's got Ellie, so we got to get her away from him.
Look,
like,
he's the last person in the world I want to have a
debt
to.
Yeah. I mean, basically, in their heads, he is John Wick at this point. Like, you just have to do whatever it takes to kill him.
You stole my John Wick joke, but I'll still make it.
Hell yeah.
For later.
Oh, there's plenty of John Wick jokes for later, yeah.
So Joel, he gets bonked on the head with a gun butt, and then he's waking up. First image he sees is the Firefly emblem. So we know that we're in the Firefly base, and Marlene immediately, like, he literally just woke up from a fucking concussion, and she's like, well, tell me how you made it through. Like, they get right into it. And she does a little, like, explanatory thing about cordyceps virus and why Ellie might be immune. And apparently the doctors told her that it's been growing in her since birth, but kind of like what we had already discussed earlier on about the pathology of it all. But she basically has cells that mimic the cordyceps virus and send out a chemical message that tells the viral cordyceps or the normal cordyceps that, hey, I'm a cordyceps, even though she isn't really.
Okay, so this is Marlene's second mistake since capturing Joel. The first mistake wasn't immediately killing him. I think we can all agree on that.
Yes,
The second one is being
absolutely.
honest about this whole procedure because she doesn't believe that Ellie has cordyceps her way into his heart, so...
Why can she steel herself to cut the brain out of a kid, but can't bring herself to just execute Joel while he's unconscious? Like,
Much easier decision.
yes.
Because she's in debt to him. Whatever.
Yeah.
You're a fucking idiot. If
You know
can
what debt is the
execute your-
easiest one to pay? The one you don't ever have to pay back.
Yeah, exactly. There is no debt if he's
Yeah,
executed.
exactly.
You literally killed your own best friend. You can't murder Joel right here? Like, I
Yeah.
don't get it.
Yeah.
It would have been a mercy. Like, last she saw, he was miserable and just drinking himself to death anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, you love Ellie. That's great. You have an emotional connection. No, that's the worst thing for you because that means Joel doesn't care about anybody but her.
Baffling leadership decisions for plot advancement. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a classic
absolutely.
storytelling trope, but it is...
And then why does she tell him that she's in surgery? She could just say, oh, she's just like off getting some tests. Like, yeah, exactly. Why are you honest with Joel about all these things? Like, you wait.
Third mistake,
until-
prep her
Yeah.
for surgery without getting her full verbal consent in front of Joel.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, it's okay. I lied to her. She doesn't even know what's happening. She'll die a perfect death. He's like, like you just see crazy Joel's coming. Like
Oh,
she's already there. And then she says she's sorry. I understand how you feel because I had to kill my best friend. No, you don't understand, Marlene.
You really don't.
You don't understand. You have no personal connection to Ellie at all. Like you gave her up
To Fedra. To Fedra.
to Fedra.
Who I believe we think you hate. I think that's the story.
Yeah, like
Yes.
that was your plan A, was give her to Fedra, and then what? Like, what was that supposed to accomplish?
Fight
Sure,
her
if
in
you wanted
15
somebody
years.
on, yeah, if you wanted somebody on the inside, you know what you have to do? You have to talk to them while they're growing up.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
tell them that that's the plan.
Okay, and then she shows that, by the way, I was close enough to Ellie to, like, get her trust, and I took the one thing that she cares about the most, her switchblade, and here, you can take that with you as you, like, leave the building.
Fourth mistake.
Like-
Arm Joel.
Arm Joel.
And, like, give him the one memento that really means the most to the girl that is, like, his daughter to him. I mean, God, fucking idiot. So she also gives him the backpack. She's like, okay, guys, just take Joel outside and leave him by the side of the road. I mean, do you not know Joel? You've already been telling them horror stories about him. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You may as well be saying Baba Yaga. You're right.
Her guards take him down this stairwell, and this is when you can, like, see his Cro-Magnon brow starts getting even more Cro-Magnon, and he's like, I'm going into primate mode. I will attack and kill everyone. I am a Terminator. And this is where my John Wick joke comes up, because I was like, Joel did John Wick before it was cool, okay? So let's listen to that clip really quick of our initial reactions to these scenes.
Oh, she's making me so angry right now. I like how Paul and I are always talking about, you should never save the one for the many. And I'm like, save the one for the many.
That's how we know we're fully on board with the bad stuff.
They are definitely our tribe.
They've done a good job getting us on board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can take them. You can take them, Joel. You've been stabbed. You almost shot yourself. What do you have to lose? Nothing.
Hey, disposable thug, what's your name? Oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, Paul. We don't need to empathize with these guys. We need them to die.
I'd be happy if they just surrendered.
Paul, that is not an option.
It's not. Because they're trying to save the world.
What are you doing? Keep walking.
You just don't... Yes! Oh, in the tick!
Dick shot! Dick shot, Joel!
Oh! Fuck yeah.
I love that. like smacking popcorn the whole time. Nom nom, fuck yeah, nom nom.
And that was 2 disapproving uses of my name.
I know, Paul. That's when I noticed it. I was like, oh gosh, you're so mean to Paul. But I knew you were gonna be like, I wish they would just surrender. Fuck you, Paul.
Fuck you, Paul.
Stop being like the one that's like, violence is bad. Yes, but this is like an amazing scene. When he's doing his rampage, they cut back on like the sounds of the violence and really ramp up the music in it, which I think is a really great choice.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever he knifes somebody, that is like the most brutal. I don't know why with the gun, you're like, okay, it's far away, it's a distance. And then when he brings out the knife, you're just like, oh yeah, I feel really gross about liking this scene. You know?
But he does drop the sound out. It's like, well, yeah, because he just fired an automatic weapon in a stairwell that's made of concrete. So he's deaf,
Yeah,
even more
no more
so.
hearing.
But so that's a good little subtle callback to that. But also, he definitely presses square plenty of times and reloads, picks up new weapons.
Yeah.
Like, it was good to see they just went full video game on the video game based show for a little while. Like, hell with it. Final shootout. Let's go.
So
Yeah.
in my first playthrough of this game, I was nowhere near as competent at taking out bad guys. And I'm pretty sure if there was a clock on it for the surgery, they'd have been long done with the surgery by the time I got to it.
He walks in, they're just into the incinerator, like, oh,
Oh, man.
Congratulations, we saved the world.
we cured him. Here's the cure. Just give him a shot, walk away.
I don't feel like I have distinct memories of that particular shootout in my brain. I do remember the scene where you come in. I'd forgotten that you actually shoot the doctor. I just remember that the vision of the operating room.
You blanked out your violence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really do. It's also kind of ironic when he like is going to see her. And yes, of course, it makes sense. She's in the pediatric ward, but it's like he just murdered a bunch of people and he's seeing these like happy elephants on the wall.
It is a fun moment. And I like that, you know, he is Joel. So he is a killer. Deep down, he is a killer, but he's not full on psycho. He doesn't kill everybody in the OR. You know, the doctor, you're going to get it when you're the doctor in that situation. There's no avoiding that. But he doesn't take out all the nurses and orderlies, anything like that.
Just the one who knows the cure method.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I did realize when I watched it again the second time, the doctor actually is like, I can't let you do that. And he came at him with a scalpel.
Yeah, he picked up the knife. It wasn't
That's true.
just he was armed and ready to attack.
And the nurses are the only ones he left alive.
Yep.
And they weren't armed. And how would they find Joel? Like, they're not going to be able to track him down. So...
Yeah.
He has a really good, I guess, radar for people that he feels like are a threat and not a threat. And the doctor was like a minor threat, but still came at him. So, but this is almost an exact recreation, I think, from the video game. There's a few differences in the things that they say. Like the doctor actually tries to convince Joel to stop with logic in the video game, and you can hear that in the opening sequence that I have. There's a portion of it that's from that scene from the video game where the doctor's like, no, like she could save the world.
I waited on that scene for so long. I kept thinking, maybe if I just pause, a third option will open up. Nothing.
It's good. I mean, you literally destroy the opportunity for the world to not be overrun by zombies. It's pretty crazy consequence to his actions.
Yeah.
And so I guess I had a funny question, sort of. Of the three of us, which one do you think is most likely to go on a Joel rampage and why?
I think it's Marcy.
I think it's Marcy.
Okay, now you have to say why, and I agree.
I think that if they took something you cared about, like Toph, you would demolish that hospital for Toph.
I love the idea of them like taking my dog for the cure, and I'm like, fuck no! You can't do that!
She doesn't even
But I
have
mean,
a human...
that is absolutely correct. Well, yeah, it has to be dog based. And like they poison the horses on the way out or something.
Oh, those bastards. I heard they don't like donkeys.
Yeah. Oh, but they also drove in on like a big tractor tiller and it tore up all our rose bushes too. So
Although I put on a good show, but you know, my job is basically caring for people. So if I really loved something, still, like, there are so many other people in pain, it'd be really difficult. I think it's easier to sacrifice yourself, right? Like, if Joel was the one with the immunity, I think he would immediately just be like, yeah, kill me, I don't care. That's part of, like, the whole theme of this is that he's been ready to die since day one when his daughter died, you know, and the only reason he continues living is because of Ellie. And then they've got Ellie and they're gonna take her too. Like, that's where the conundrum comes in, right?
Yeah.
Here's how I would smart my way out of the situation. I would take out the generator and I would hold it hostage for them making her wake up and at least give consent.
There you go. Yep, perfect.
Beautiful.
Yeah, she should know at least what's going to happen. I think that everybody took the choice away from Ellie. They're constantly taking choices away from Ellie. She's still alive. Just because you want this to happen doesn't mean she shouldn't have a choice in how it happens.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say for 40 of the 47 minutes of this episode, she goes from character to MacGuffin for everybody else.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, they definitely take agency from her for almost the entire episode, give it back to her with seeing the giraffes, and then give it back to her at the end. But for the rest of it, it's like, yeah, this is not about her because, like you said, it's been taken from her by everybody else.
Yeah, and I guess that leads well into the next scene where Joel grabs Ellie and is taking her down into the garage to take her away, and Marlene gets the jump on him, and one of the things that she says is like, you know that Ellie would make this choice. I'm like, do you though? You didn't fucking ask her when she didn't know she was gonna completely die. It's like still manipulative of Marlene because she didn't allow Ellie to have the choice. And remember that scene in the utopian community where Joel gives Ellie a choice of whether or not she should go with him or Tommy, and she chooses him, you know? Ellie thrives in the ability to make her own decisions. Everybody wants to make those decisions for themselves.
And
so.
she's willing to live with her decisions too.
Yeah.
Like she accepts the consequence and the knowledge of making and sticking with those decisions when they need to be stuck to, like dying for humanity.
Yeah. That adds a lot of complexity to her specifically because in a story that's about good and bad, it would be easy for Joel to align with the good side of letting her have a choice, and he doesn't give that to her either. And that takes away from her for the rest of the game and the next game. It takes critical, important stuff from her. That like the whole game is about dealing with that consequence. So they're definitely leaning into the, yes, we have taken agency away from the most important person on this planet, and that's gonna be bad.
Right. I think with the scene with Marlene, what really like ultimately bugged me deep down was that the University Hospital isn't built on a garage. It's got a separate parking garage.
Oh my God, Don. Shut up!
Yeah, that's the worst part of this whole episode.
Right? Yeah, like immediately took me out of it and I just stopped it there. So
I was like, I've been to that parking garage, okay?
Yeah, I have been to that parking garage.
You can't surprise Joel from behind like that from that angle.
Oh yeah, critical mess up number 8,000. Like, don't just shoot Joel in the head, but then we all know they're all bad shots. But still, like, you're still thinking you can reason with Joel?
Yeah,
just
at this point,
your entire squad.
Yes.
You have no credibility when you say like, we can walk this back, just don't keep shooting me.
Even now.
I mean, it's fucking hysterical how dumb she is. I mean, he literally murdered like 18,000. I don't know why 18 is a big number for me, but it is a lot of your guys. Cold-blooded, murdered the doctor. You have the drop on him, and you decide to talk?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot him in the leg or something. It's not gonna hurt Ellie to like fall down.
Especially when we have seen literally in this episode how willing she is to just walk up and shoot somebody in the head.
Yes!
Like her best friend.
Yes!
Why are you walking up and shooting him in the head?
And like if she had anything on her that could have been used to disarm Joel, maybe it would have been believable. If she maybe sensed that there's something wrong because Tess isn't there. So like, what would Tess have wanted? I'm sure she's dead because she's not here. Like maybe that could have at least been interesting, and like maybe Joel might have been caught off guard by that. But no, it's like, it's just guaranteed he's gonna shoot.
Oh yeah. It's such a ridiculous scene. I get why they're doing it this way, but still, like, come on, people. He's obviously violent. He's obviously all those things. He's made the decision. He's not going to turn back now. He killed the doctor that can save the universe anyway, so.
Yeah, and he's right. Like, she will follow them. There's nothing she can do to make that go away. So
Yeah, absolutely.
And I respect his decision on that. He's like, no.
Nope.
Making sure.
I'm not an idiot, ma'am.
Yeah. I've seen movies.
I've been on both sides of this, but usually I win when I'm on your side.
His little one-liners when he makes his executions are just so cold-blooded.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're going to just come after us, bam.
Yeah.
Or like, I don't have time for this, bam.
Yeah.
Or I believe him, bam.
You're
so,
right.
like, practical.
He's got 5 words and a bam. So I did pay attention to the blocking of where his arms are when he's holding Ellie. And at one point, his gun hand is under her legs, you know, where the knee crux is. And it looks like maybe he could be holding a gun there, but it'd be like the gun would be holding up part of her leg because it is well recessed. And then the shot where he shoots Marlene, it's like way out there and super obvious.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I'm like, well, if he was carrying Ellie, like he'd be pointing that gun right at his own head. You know, if he was like cradled in his arms. So, like, all right, well, I know it's there. I know it's there before they show him shooting her, but
yeah,
it's like, don't shoot Ellie's leg. You know, just a bullet
he like
through her
shoots through Ellie.
You got shot by raiders.
Oh man.
So yeah, Joel ends Marlene, and at this point, all hostilities are over, and he gets to pick whichever car he wants. So, of course, he gets another truck. And Ellie wakes up in the back slowly with the drugs wearing off. And she asks what the fuck just happened, because what the fuck just happened? Last thing she remembers, she was telling puns.
Yeah. That's true. They got flashbanged and then, wake up on a border between Utah and Wyoming that does not exist with that many trees. I was like, oh, there's Canada. Okay, there we go.
Safety of Canada.
Yep.
It's funny that you mentioned the Raiders part, because he tells this super elaborate lie. A really elaborate lie. And part of it, he says, like, Raiders killed everybody. And I just love the idea that he equates to, like, a pack of Raiders.
Yeah, he does.
One discussion that I had that was basically like Joel starts the game as a badass and his journey is becoming a softie, and then he has to rely on his badassness from the beginning of being cold to rescue her, and in doing so kind of negates all the softening that he got from being with her. It's like this double-edged sword, because truly she hasn't actually seen that side of him. Anytime that he's done that, it's been alone. Like, she's not seen him torture people or anything.
True.
She's known that he's protected her, but she's never been witness to his true level of brutality that he can get to.
Yeah.
So it's sort of an interesting journey that he goes on, that, like, he starts as a badass. His journey is becoming more of a softie, but then he has to rely on that hard heart of his, and it's his undoing.
And also because he's not a good liar, you know, he's sort of trapped himself by being bad at this one skill that suddenly he needs to use.
Yeah, he's not a good liar. He's also trying to walk the tightrope of protecting her and protecting himself from losing her.
Which would break him too.
Yeah, he's kind of doing the dad thing where I'm lying for her own good, which is like the worst time to lie. And I think, again, I've talked about Andrew's mom, who's a child psychologist. I think you can tell kids or young people the truth without telling them every detail, right?
Yeah. You just leave the conversation open. Like, if you have more questions, I will answer them. This is the level I think that we are good at for now.
Yeah. And what would have happened if he'd told the truth? I think she would have been very, very angry at him.
Yep. And he might have lost her. Yeah.
Might have lost her, but not in the same way that I think he probably is going to lose her because he lied.
Yeah.
I think lie betrayal is way worse than like, well, this is just who I am. I'm Joel. This is what I do. I love you. Like, if he had put it in like those terms, like, she didn't have to witness any of that. So it's kind of like would already be distant to her, and just saying like, I couldn't let you die. I am sorry.
I can't let that loss happen again so soon after recovering from it.
Right.
And you can hate me, and you can hit me, and you can do whatever you need to do.
Because you're still alive, and that's what I care about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Also, she can make the decisions. You can't tell me there was one brain surgeon left in the entire world. Like, be like, look, I just wanted you to know that this is what was going to happen without you being able to choose. And it's like, at some point in your life, maybe that's a decision you'll be willing to make. It isn't like he took it off the table completely.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Andrew, during watching the finale, had the fucking solution, which just was wait for her to fucking die when she gets old, and then take it from her when she's like fucking 85 and has cancer, and she's like, okay, fine, like, I'm ready to die now. Like, you don't have to do it right then. Like, the world can last another 50 years.
Or ask for volunteers who are willing to get bit during birth and like,
use a baby that doesn't have any knowledge of their life.
Yeah. Damn, Marcy, I was just going to say make more immune people, not cut a baby's brain.
John, they don't have any life. They haven't lived a life yet. That's more ethically right than killing a person that's been alive and is aware and has relationships. Like, a baby doesn't know shit.
That is...
That line needs to go in
the
trailer. Euthanize the baby. Obviously, I don't want to kill a baby, but of the two options, like, just saying.
I think
Babies never killed zombies. Yeah.
There's a weakness to Andrew's claim, and that's Ellie lives a high-risk lifestyle. I think we can all agree that. And so she will probably do something to kill herself before she hits 85. So instead of what he proposed, I think it could just be have a bodyguard of 2 on her at all times, and they should be trained at harvesting her specifically when she goes. Okay, so the lie that Joel told basically was that there were a bunch of other test subjects equivalent to Ellie so that she's not special. None of them worked, and they already did everything they needed to test on Ellie to make sure that she also wouldn't work, that they have concluded that this whole program is a bust, and also that they were killed by raiders.
It's such a bad story.
It's like, boy, lies work when they're simple. But damn, you do not know that, obviously.
And those raiders were riding elephants, and they were fighting the giraffes.
Yep.
I mean, I love how she's like, did anyone make it out alive? She's like, did Joel kill everyone? And he's like, silence. And she's like, well, Joel killed everybody. Yeah, that was funny. So their vehicle breaks down. Joel makes kind of a callback to episode 2 where he's like, oh, it'll be like a 5-hour hike. Remember, Ellie? And she's like, I remember. And there's a really cute scene where Joel starts talking about Sarah, and we have that clip. So let's listen to that.
Sarah and I used to hike like this all the time. I wouldn't say it was her favorite thing. She wasn't a fan of the mosquitoes and such. But she was a big climber, or scampering. That's probably the right word. That girl, she'd see a big rock and just... She would have liked you. Not to say the two of you are the same, but definitely different kids.
How so?
Well, she was a lot more... I want to say girly, and I'm not saying that you're not girly.
I'm not.
Yeah, you're not. So that... She was taller. She had a killer smile. Again, not saying that you don't. But you know why I think she'd like you?
Why?
Because you're funny. I think you would have made her laugh. Anyway, I bet you would have liked her back.
Yeah, bet I would have.
Yeah, I asked you to get that clip just because it does represent, a lot of what this whole season has been building to, of him being able to talk about Sarah, him willingly talking about her without being prodded. Like, it's the one time he talks about something personal that she doesn't badger him into doing it. It shows that he goes into massacre mode because he needs to, not because he wants to. He did what he did at the hospital for the reasons he did, but it shows that that's not just the person he is. It's not how he's going to handle everything. And it's a really nice, calm moment after such a violent moment.
I definitely gravitated on the part where he said she's much more... I just forgot the word. See, in my head, I thought pink. Like, she just wore a lot more pink than me.
Girly.
Girly, yeah. And yeah, Ellie just being like, I'm not girly. Yeah. You're not going to offend me by saying that.
I do like that he keeps turning to her to be like,
yep.
Not that you're not that. Like, don't feel jealous of these things that I'm saying. And like,
you're both differently great.
Yeah.
This and the scene where he's asking her to tell puns after they see the giraffes, he's much more physically animated as they're walking and moving. It's not just that he's opening up and talking and laughing. He is actually moving more. His shoulders are moving, his hips are moving, his arms are swinging as he walks. It is very well demonstrated and very well shown. Like, okay, Joel is coming back out of whatever shell, whatever hole he's been in for 20 years.
Yeah, a weight's been lifted from him. Like, you can feel that the decision that he made to rescue her was not a hard decision for him, obviously. And he is completely content with what happened. It did not faze him really at all. And if anything, this is the one time he was able to use violence in a way that felt like it was justified. It is really sweet to see that he's had a weight lifted, but instead now he's put that weight on Ellie. And so you can see now Ellie is the opposite. Like, she used to be like that. She's hunched. She knows that the relationship has changed forever because she knows that he's lied, but she's trying to convince herself that he didn't. But you can see that she's taken on the weight now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's even... almost like a perfect inverse of the previous Chef Boyardee episode. Their role reversal, the timing of Joel being quiet and then Chef Boyardee, and now it's Joel being animated after Chef Boyardee. It's like very well symmetry there.
Mm-hmm.
Great sentence structure, Paul.
There's a lot of sugar in Chef Boyardee, so he's all hyped up.
So I've been tracking the color pink throughout this season, and I suddenly realized I had vaguely been paying attention, waiting for a moment when Joel would suddenly have like an item that's pink or an item that's red, and he really never does get one. In this scene, he's very monochrome, like no color on him at all, and Ellie still has like a red flannel on.
Yeah, it's plaid though. It's way less pink than she's usually wearing.
It's true.
Yep.
And so I feel like this moment is sort of showing that even if Joel can come out of the darkness a little bit, he's still just always going to have that darkness and that capability to murder when necessary without remorse because he made the decision and he's going to accept that consequence, you know? And I think his color pattern matches, and Ellie, I think, is still hopeful. So she does still have some pink and red, but it's definitely a lot more muted than the previous episodes.
And so Joel is rambling, having a good time with this 5-mile hike, and Ellie's trying to play, but, you know, she's got stuff on her mind. And so she finally, I think, do you think she was bringing this up as a way to say, like, I'm not a baby, I'm tough, I can handle this? Because she says, like, hey, this is that story about, you know, the person that I killed, that whole Riley episode. And please tell me the truth, Joel. Is what you said real? And he does the dumb thing.
Yeah.
He lies.
Yep.
She says, swear to me.
Swear to me.
Telling me the truth. And he's like, I swear. And you're like, no.
You broke your vow.
And yeah, you're right, Paul. I think that she was telling that story to do a similar confession to kind of what he did to her earlier in the episode and say, like, we're in this together. Like, we both have trauma. I want to trust you. Do you still trust me? Like, tell me the truth. And he doesn't.
Yeah. I'm going to say in the modern day of television, the way they're making shows these days, it's 50-50 as to whether that actually comes back up again. We'll see. I mean, I'm sure somebody intends it to, but behind the scenes, if something changes with who's running the show, stuff like that, it could never come up again. We'll just have to wait and see.
The Lie, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh,
Shows
it's
are
coming
all over
up.
I mean, I would like to think it will, but I wouldn't be surprised if somehow it just gets sidelined for something else.
I mean, I've been reading some of the things that people are saying, and I think I have not watched playthroughs. Paul did watch a playthrough of The Last of Us 2, and Paul's been saying a couple of things here and there in this episode, where the whole Last of Us 2, I think, is based on
it,
The Lie.
Yeah.
And I've heard from some of the showrunners and Pedro Pascal even says, I think that it would be stupid if they were so close to Last of Us 1 to not continue to stay close to Last of Us 2.
Yeah, and I'm hoping they do.
But if Druckmann gets kicked off of the show, then all bets are off.
This was so successful that I feel like HBO would be very dumb, especially because the guy who did Chernobyl is doing this show. And that was really successful. They literally said, you can do whatever you want with your next show. And he chose this. Nice. And it's super successful. So if they change who's running it, that would be the dumbest decision HBO's ever made.
And they did Game of Thrones season, whichever the last one was.
But you're right. I mean, certainly things can change, but I feel like because of the success that this one has had, I'm guessing it's going to win a lot of awards. The one thing I did hear, though, was that they might do more than 2 seasons, which...
That's where
I was like, huh? Like... Because I thought they would split Last of Us 1 into a couple of seasons. I was super surprised that they basically did the whole story in one season.
Yeah.
So, having watched the playthrough of The Last of Us 2, do you think they could pull 2 seasons out of that game?
Yeah, they could break it to... There's kind of 2 characters that are the protagonists in the second one. So you're following the sequence of events for Ellie and the antagonist of Ellie. And some of their plot lines sort of influence what happens in the other. I could see being like halfway there, or like get to the point where they have their first major conflict, and that would be the end of season 2. And there's enough material probably to make a season 3 out of what's left, but... That's a stretch. Like, I don't know.
Interesting. I feel like they did a very successful job at turning a game format into a television show.
Oh, yeah.
That people wanted to watch that weren't just gamers. Because I know, like, Halo has a show, and other games have tried to do that. I mean, I don't think they're very successful. I haven't really heard of a lot of success coming from them. So I think they did a good job of making it accessible to everyone, not just nerds that play video games.
Yeah.
And the way they did that was not making it all about the hyper violence of the video game. I mean, it is violent. There's lots of violence in it, but they stuck to what the core of the story was, which is it's always about the humans and how we deal with these extreme consequences and these extreme situations. And that's what makes it interesting and good. I mean, if anybody's a common man, Andrew would say that he is a common man, and he hates zombie shows, and he really liked this show. And that tells you something. That
because it was about a general contractor.
Yeah, that, but also because it was about people, and they kept the zombie stuff to a minimum. It was there to be thrilling, but it wasn't what the story was about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, someone I know who's dealt with some trauma of suicidal friends has stated that a lot of these episodes have a lot of shocking sudden suicides, and that seems like a fair thing to bring up. Maybe it's a bit late to talk about it since we're at the last episode.
I mean, we have discussed the mini suicides.
But just like, since there's so much of it in all of them, like it's not a heartwarming show and it can traumatize people.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I think there's lots of trigger things in this. I mean, literally, this little girl almost gets raped by some crazy preacher. I mean, there's so many things in it that aren't heartwarming, but I think it's great that they're able to take those moments that could be even more traumatizing. I mean, like, look at something like The Walking Dead. I mean, I think that kind of horror is meant to, and I used this word before, inure you to the violence. At a certain point, you're just like, oh, like, I don't really care about it anymore. And I think it's important that they're bringing forward things like when bad shit happens, people try to kill themselves.
Yeah.
I mean that is a huge epidemic even in our culture right now. But yes, it is traumatizing if you're a person who has tried to or experienced having friends that have it, that would be hard to watch and to see. But it certainly is a big part of the human experience.
It is.
True.
Well, it's like if you're gonna watch a show about zombies, it's like you're probably gonna see people die, and some of them are probably by their own hand. Pretty common zombie trope. You either tell people and off yourself, or you don't tell people and put everybody else at risk. It's like the two very common ways that these stories are told. So
yeah, if this is really gonna cause you true trauma to watch a show like this, you need to do your own research. I guess if I'm reading a book and suddenly my rape sense is tingling and I feel like I'm going to be traumatized by that. Like, that's why I don't watch a lot of horror. I've literally been traumatized by movies like, what's Leatherface's movie?
Texas Chainsaw
Massacre.
I think it's called Another Tuesday in Texas.
And The Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah.
And I was like, I am never watching a movie like the torture porn movie again. I mean, I obviously can't handle it. Like, I still have nightmares about it. And they're like really realistic. So I understand that I have to do my research about a movie. Like, I will talk to my friends. I'll be like, what's in this movie? These are the kind of horror movies I can handle. Pick one. Like, I'll watch a horror, but I'm not going to watch one that's going to have certain types of things in it. And I guess I feel like that doesn't mean that other people shouldn't be making content that addresses these issues, and I think they address them in a way that's respectful enough that it's worth watching. It's not just on the screen to be like, look, there's suicides, you know?
Yeah. I like the way you put it. Like, yeah, part of making decisions is having a community, which is obviously a huge part of what this entire show is about. But you have to ask other people. You have to ask for help sometimes if you don't know what you're about to get into.
Yeah, one of my friends from podcasting literally said, well, I can't watch The Last of Us myself because he can't handle these kinds of shows. But he's like, well, I'll listen to your podcast because I can watch it with you, like filtering it, basically. So I was like, oh, like, that's kind of fun to think about. Like, maybe somebody who can't actually see the visual images of it
can learn about it.
Learn about it and listen, and because we pretty much tell you everything that happens in the episode. So you basically can watch it through our eyes, and I think that's kind of a cool thing about this kind of content is maybe you can't watch it because the imagery is too visceral to you, but you might be able to listen to somebody talk about it.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
For Idle Ride Season 2. No.
We're going to watch only torture porn.
We've got one more episode where we're gonna just, like I said, bookend it and talk about the whole season, and then maybe some content where we do little reviews of some games that feel a little bit like The Last of Us. And then the actual next season, I'm not sure. I'm certainly not going to wait around for the next Last of Us because who knows when that's going to come out. But people have ideas about what they want us to watch. Although I did just binge watch all of Picard season 3 up until like the finale, I think is coming Thursday,
tomorrow. Yeah.
And I must say that is some nostalgia porn in that show. Like, I couldn't believe the side characters they're pulling out from like original TNG. It's crazy. Anyway, but there'll definitely be more content. Certainly there'll be definitely more Last of Us content with the playthrough. We'll pick a book or we'll pick a show. We'll do that next season.
Yeah.
But we don't know what it's going to be.
I'm going to propose start working your way through the Dark Tower books because there is a Dark Tower series in the works. So
there is.
There is, yep. You could do a season on or two on the books and then do a season on the show when it comes out.
Those books are wild.
So it's a pretty abrupt ending to the finale, but I think all of us still enjoyed it. We talked a little bit about the pros and cons, but ultimately it was a amazing season, and we look forward to season 2. Again, I'm going to be doing a live stream of The Last of Us on Steam coming up here. It sounds like the bugs are getting worked out finally, so that should be fun, but I got to get myself a new computer, so Paul might have to help me put that together at some point.
Ooh, that could be our idle ride.
That's a whole episode, right? Yeah, it's at least an episode right there. That
could be a
pretty
fun episode. Yeah. Just recording us putting together an episode computer. Yeah, so that's the finale. Thank you for listening, and we'll be doing another episode here soon on just talking about all of it. Anything else you guys want to say before
Thanks for having me for this
off?
finale episode. I appreciate it. Good to talk to you guys again.
Thanks for being on, John.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.